Michael had just turned 63. He was a typical man of his generation, worked his whole life, provided for his family, saved for the future. But recently, he had started noticing strange changes. Fatigue would hit by noon, and his evenings were filled with apathy. Intimacy with his wife had become rare and mechanical, and his mood unstable. He chalked it all up to aging. "I guess this is just how it is," he thought, recalling what the doctor said during his last checkup. "What do you expect, Michael? This is normal after 60. But one night, he woke up with a numb, weak feeling in his lower abdomen. It wasn't painful, but it felt unfamiliar and unsettling. A few days later, it happened again. Soon after, he ended up in the hospital, where doctors diagnosed a serious circulation issue in the pelvic area. It wasn't a heart attack. It wasn't a stroke. But it was a warning. A quiet, almost invisible deterioration of blood flow, robbing him not just of strength, but of his sense of self. When we met, Michael sat across from me, reserved, tired, slightly embarrassed. He didn't know what to think. His test results were concerning, but not critical. And most of all, there was fear in his eyes. Not fear for his life, but for losing something deeper. His masculine confidence, closeness with his wife, his dignity. I realized he didn't just need an explanation. He needed a way back to himself. I told Michael something rarely heard in doctors' offices. It's not about age. It's about his blood vessels. Like many men at his age, they were losing flexibility. Poor circulation isn't a disease. It's a condition, and it can be reversed. Starting with something as simple as breakfast, properly prepared eggs aren't just food. They're a source of nutrients that support vascular health, improve blood flow, and help restore lost energy. We agreed to begin with a small step, a warm, nourishing breakfast that could bring strength back to his body and hope back to his spirit. Michael didn't argue. He simply nodded and quietly said, "Doc, if there's a chance, I want to try." A few weeks after our first meeting, Michael returned to my office noticeably calmer. He had stuck to our agreement, ate breakfast regularly, included eggs, and paid attention to how he felt. But what intrigued him most was the mechanism itself. How could something as simple as food have such a powerful impact on a man's health? I decided to explain it to him, not in medical terms, but in plain, relatable language. I said, "Imagine your body is a city, and your blood is the river that supplies it with everything it needs: oxygen, nutrients, energy. When that river flows freely, everything works. But if the riverbed narrows, if the water stagnates, problems begin. Parts of the city are left without supply. That's what happens with age. Blood vessels lose their elasticity. Plaques form, and circulation slows down." He listened attentively, nodding. I continued, "It doesn't happen all at once. It starts with small things. Your fingers or toes feel cold, especially in the morning. Then comes fatigue, even after light exertion. Then, a fading interest in intimacy. But most men don't link this to circulation. They just think it's old age. In reality, it's the body sending signals." Michael sighed. "And I ignored all those signals. If only I'd known earlier." He trailed off. "I understand. Men like him. No one told them the truth. No one explained. No one guided them. They were taught to endure, to suppress emotions, and not complain. But the body doesn't scream. It whispers. And if you hear that whisper in time, you can change." A lot, I explained that circulation can be supported not with pills, but naturally. And the starting point isn't hospital procedures. It's simple things accessible to anyone. Eggs, contrary to outdated myths, aren't harmful. They're rich in nutrients that support blood vessels, nourish the brain, and aid the hormonal system. The key is knowing how to prepare them and what to pair them with. Michael asked, "Why doesn't anyone talk about this? Why don't doctors start here?" I shrugged. Maybe because it doesn't sound like a miracle drug. But in my experience, it's the small, warm, human steps that bring the most lasting and real results. Michael nodded again and said, "I want to know more. I'm ready to listen and try." And in that moment, I knew he was on the right path. One of the most memorable stories I often recall is about a patient of mine named Leonard. He was the same age as Michael, 72 years old, strong-looking, calm, but with a certain dimness in his eyes. He didn't come with complaints, but with a question. "Doctor," he said, "I'm not sick, but I don't feel like myself anymore. It's like I'm drifting further from life with each passing day. I want to understand if that can be changed." His voice was quiet, but there was hope in it. He wasn't looking for a magic pill. He was looking for a way. We started by talking about his daily habits. Breakfast? Just coffee and a dry toast. Exercise? Occasionally, a short walk. Eggs? "Oh, come on, Doc. 20 years ago they told me eggs would spike my cholesterol." And Leonard wasn't alone. There are hundreds like him. Years of fear around natural food had taken their toll. People became afraid of what once nourished humanity. For centuries, I calmly explained that modern research tells a different story. Eggs, especially from chickens-fed natural diets, are a powerful source of nutrients that the body starts lacking with age. Choline strengthens blood vessel walls. Arginine helps them expand, improving blood flow. B vitamins, especially B12, and folate, enhance oxygen exchange. And healthy fats support hormonal balance. These are the building blocks of male vitality. I suggested Leonard start his day with 2 gently cooked eggs, boiled, poached, or lightly pan-fried. Add some greens, a bit of avocado, whole grain bread. He didn't object. He said he'd give it a try. 3 weeks later, he came back, and I noticed the difference immediately. There was a spark in his eyes. He smiled more. "Doc," he began, "I never thought food could bring warmth back to my body. Even my hands stopped getting cold. But most of all, I feel more alive, like I came back from far away." Leonard's story became yet another reminder to me that even one small change can set off a chain reaction. And it's not about miracles. It's about care, mindful, consistent, respectful. When a man starts his day with the right food, it's like telling himself, "I'm still here. My body still works." That feeling brings back not just health, but meaning. And with it, joy in living. When Michael came in for another visit, his face looked different. Not younger, but more alive. He began telling me how much better he felt. His hands were less cold, waking up was easier, his thoughts were clearer. But then, mid-conversation, he hesitated. "Doctor," he said, "can I ask a silly question? How exactly should I cook the eggs? I've been frying them in a pan with oil, like I always have. Sometimes with bacon. That's okay, right?" I smiled. He wasn't the first to ask. In fact, it's not a silly question at all. It's a very important one. I explained to Michael that it's not just the food itself that matters, but also how we prepare it. Eggs are inherently healthy, but when cooked improperly, much of their power can be lost. For example, frying them in refined sunflower, soybean, or corn oil, especially at high heat, introduces oxidized fats into the meal. These fats trigger inflammation in the blood vessels, the very thing we're trying to fight. I told him that one of the worst options is the typical American breakfast: eggs overcooked in oil, with bacon or sausage. That combination turns potentially beneficial food into a source of stress for the body. Instead of improved circulation, you get sluggish blood flow. Instead of mental clarity, fog. Instead of energy, irritability. Michael listened closely, and I could see a flicker of worry on his face, but I quickly reassured him, it's all fixable. The most reliable method is boiled eggs, or poached. If you prefer frying, do it in extra virgin olive oil or butter from grass-fed cows. Use low heat and don't overcook them. Add leafy greens like spinach, arugula, or kale. Include a bit of avocado, a great source of healthy fats. And if you want to boost the anti-inflammatory effect, sprinkle a little turmeric with black pepper. After just a week of eating this way, you might feel your blood flowing more freely, warmth returning to your legs, your gaze becoming steadier. It's not magic. It's the body's natural response to care. Michael wrote everything down, and as he was leaving, he said, "Now I get it. Breakfast isn't just food. It's a way to show myself respect." I nodded, because it's in those seemingly small things that real recovery begins, not just of the body, but of life itself.